I had a lot of fun. This going through and and basically taking a battle axe to every single point of this was so fun. I really enjoyed it. This was a good time. I hope to do this again. I hope to find another article that is just this.
Defensive position needed
But,
on the marked objective.
You know, also I don't. I also don't wish that I find another article this bad. You know, but anyways, yeah, I wish I could just go back to doing content, but the other kind of content, like, you know, me just sitting vibing and everything. But guess what? This stuff's relevant and it's important. It's really a cancer because, like I said, it is a negative characterization about how everything's supposed to work, and that's not good. And we need to take a positive approach to this stuff and take things in that direction, because it's really easy to, and I think
Let me heal you. Let me heal you.
how's it going, everybody? So, here is a article from BuzzFeed. It says vertical morality is the term that may describe why MAGA Christians seem so unchristian. For many Americans, the gap between Christian teachings and MAGA politics is baffling. How can people profess faith in Jesus who preached love, mercy, and care for the oppressed, while supporting policies that punish immigrants? Oh, do I have to scroll down? Sorry, guys. Demonize LGBTQ people and glorify cruelty. The key to understanding this apparent contradiction might lie in something called vertical morality. This ethical framework measures righteousness not by goodness to others, but by something more simplistic. Below, Christian advocates and former fundamentalists break down what vertical morality means and how it explains our political landscape today. What is vertical morality? Vertical morality teaches that authority, power, and moral code of right and wrong, or acceptable and unacceptable, come from above, quote unquote.
We have light armored vehicles ready for combat.
An external superior, guys, who designates rules, systems, and tenets that must be obeyed by those beneath. Said Tia Leving, former Christian fundamentalist and author of A Well-Trained Wife, My Escape from Christian Patriarchy. Oh boy, I wonder what this woman who left Christianity is gonna say. Come on, guys. Let's go, let's find out. In the context of religion, the superior is God. And it's a man! In politics, it might be an authoritarian dictator. See, we're going with this, guys? He's an authoritarian dictator. That's who God is, guys. He's an authoritarian dictator. He's a rule master. He just whips you into shape. You know, and if you don't do what he wants you to do, you're gonna burn. That's how it is. Actually, we're already gonna burn, and he's trying to help us out of it. It's the other way around. We're terrible, we're authoritarian, we're dictators, we're the ones that are the bad ones, and he's trying to get us out of that mess. Let's continue. In a cult, where it would be in a cult. Here we go. In a cult, it would be the controlling leader. Okay, well, now God is a cult leader. Okay, whatever the God who created all of the world, who begot his only begotten son to die for our sins. Cult leader, whatever the circumstances, the idea is that behaviors are only right or wrong based on what the figure in power says. Okay, let's unpack that a little bit, because you're telling me that what, you are the authority on the right and wrong? So now it's either God or it's nobody, because then it's anybody, because it's either God or everybody else. Do you see how that works? Because then it just becomes subjective. So because people die, so if it's not like, you know, Frank over there who's going to tell us what things are moral or not, and if Frank dies, what are we going to do? Okay, so this is ridiculous on its face. Okay.
I'm hit! Fuck!
So yeah, God has to be the moral arbiter. Okay, he has to be the one, because he's an eternal God. He's going to live forever. So he can say what is good or bad because he's the only one that's going to stick around. Also, if you were God and you created everything, you get to do that. I'm sorry. Do you think you're not allowed to do that? You're God. I don't understand. This is just ridiculous. Okay. Okay, so the idea that behaviors are right and wrong are based on whatever figure in power says. Okay. Vertical morality in Christianity is the idea that our ethics and behaviors have a duty to please God alone. We get our morals from God and we must obey him, furthering the will of God no matter the cost. Says April A. Joy, author of Star Spangled Jesus, Leaving Christian Nationalism and Finding a True Faith. I wonder what her faith is. Probably in herself. The term has become popular in the social media sphere in recent years, thanks to the viral videos from content creators and activist Rachel Kling Kane. She told HuffPost she started using this terminology in her content a few years ago. Vertical morality is just how I describe what's called divine command theory in meta-ethics. she said, I'm a teacher, so I'm always looking for ways to make complicated concepts a little more simple. It's basically the idea that morality comes from authority above, which is what I was taught when I was raised within conservative Christianity. Okay. Let's see. So she just comes up with some weird way of saying vertical morality, meaning God's in charge. Way to make this way more simple. Okay, vertical morality. So this is what the left does. This is what people do if because they can't understand the simplicity, things that are so simple about the kingdom of God. So they try to invent all their own things, and it's like vertical morality. What are we talking about here? Vertical morality stands in contrast to the concept of horizontal morality, another term Klinger Kane has broken down in her videos. Horizontal morality prioritize the well-being of our neighbors, communities, and personal relationships. Ajoy explained, we act in ways that cause the least amount of harm to those around us, regardless of beliefs. Someone with vertical morality may help someone in need because they believe that this is what God wants them to do, versus someone with horizontal morality may help that same person for the benefit of the person that needs help. Okay. This is the God of niceness. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to say that you should just be nice, and because the way God has it all set up isn't good enough. Yeah, he did a good job trying, and it's not perfect. So we're gonna take it from here, God. Don't worry. So yeah, okay. It says rather than unquestioning obedience, and superficial optics, whatever that means, this approach focuses on genuine empathy, compassion, and love towards others, recognizing the actual effects our actions have on people. Okay, sorry. Do you not know how the gospel works? And I think she doesn't, and I think that most Christians don't, and I think that's really bad. That's why I talk about forgiveness on this channel. That's why we're talking about forgiveness, because most people don't know how grace works and how this all supposed to work. I know I didn't. I was a Christian for 30 years, and now that my eyes are opened, and I'm not part of this Christian religion anymore. I actually have the understanding of how grace is supposed to work because I read the Bible for myself. You guys just need to read the Bible. And it's like people just go to church and then they get brainwashed. Okay? Sorry to say, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Because I used to be someone who just said, okay, I have to just say these magic words and then you're saved. But that's not how this works. You have to have grace to get grace. You have to give grace. So yeah, actually, what this lady is kind of talking about is real and is true, because to a certain degree, we're supposed to have grace towards others and charity is doing for others that don't deserve it. And guess how that works? It's in forgiveness and it's in mercy and grace. Okay, so check this out. If I gave you $20, right, you don't deserve it, right? That's called charity. So we're supposed to give forgiveness in the same way. I'm supposed to forgive you in the same way we have charity. So if I give you $20, I'm forgiving you the same way. That's the love God showed us and how it's supposed to work. He's telling us we're supposed to forgive people even though it really hurts. And even though it takes everything out of us to forgive somebody and have grace, that's a perfect sacrifice. Does this mean that we don't have sovereignty? No, that means that we have sovereignty for ourselves and people can't just walk all over us and beat the crap out of us. We're supposed to have sovereignty, okay? And we're supposed to trust in the Lord. That doesn't mean just being a pushover. It doesn't mean standing up for what's right. We're supposed to stand up for the truth. We're supposed to spread the gospel, okay? And it doesn't mean just be a punching bag. So I'm just, there's just such a disconnect how people perceive grace and forgiveness and how they're supposed to do this all. And then this is the alternative, because people are trying to be nice to people and trying to be kind to people, but they don't have forgiveness and they don't have grace. The person who wrote this article doesn't have forgiveness for Christians. If they had forgiveness for Christians and understood that not everybody is perfect and even Christians fall short, then they would be like, oh, okay, well, maybe these people aren't perfect, but I need to have a relationship with God all on my own. Does that make sense? And so this person not forgiving other Christians decides, hey, look, you're not empathetic enough. What does that mean? Empathetic towards what? A lot of the time, it's empathetic towards people with different ideas of how morality should be. It's always about the sin, guys. It's always about the sin. It's always about trying to trying to say, you know what, God, you don't know what you're talking about, and everything. But no. So grace is we have to be in a state of grace. So basically that's what I'm saying. We have to be in a state of grace, and you can't be in a state of grace if you are committing certain sins. Okay? And one of those sins is fornication, adultery, and homosexuality. It's like, there's a whole list of them, of all the sins that you can't do, because it will basically just boot you straight out of the grace. Because if you're doing those things unrepentantly, then you're not in a state of repentance and trying to stay away from those things. This is getting long-winded, but it's like, good grief, I have to deep dive some of this stuff. Okay. Let's see. It says, okay, because that's what I'm saying. It says someone with vertical morality may help someone in need because they believe that God wants them to, versus someone with horizontal morality may help that same person for the benefit of a person that needs help. This is a straw man. You're making a straw man. Okay, if you just believe that we were doing it just... That's what I'm saying. These people think that God is trying to make you do these things so that if you don't do these things, you won't be, you won't have grace, okay? But here's the thing. If you have grace in your heart first, then doing these things for others comes naturally. It's a side effect. Having love in this way is a side effect of having grace and forgiveness already in your heart. If you don't have it already in your heart for people, and for yourself, and for God, some people don't have grace for God. You can tell in this article that they don't even have grace for God. No, God, we got it from here. You're wrong. You're not having grace for him, saying, and being humble. That's what I mean. Having grace for him, I'm meaning you have to be humble and say, look, God actually knows what he's doing. You know, and you have to forgive him for being God and knowing what he's doing, because you don't forgive him for being God and you think you know how it's supposed to go. So like I'm saying, if you don't have grace already in your heart, how are you going to love somebody? And that's the point. You're trying to, like, if you're just trying to be nice to somebody, just to be nice, and it's like, and you're like, oh, I have to be nice, and I have to love my neighbor as myself, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. That's religion. That's a bunch of laws. But the opposite is If you have grace, then already in your heart, then it comes out. Then you want to help your neighbor. And it's not like someone's making you help your neighbor. Is this making sense? So it says, rather than unquestioning obedience in superficial optics, that's what I'm saying. They just think that it's just unquestioning obedience. As if God doesn't know what he's doing. And superficial optics probably meaning that you're just doing it to look good. You're just doing it to look righteous. But that's not how this works. You're supposed to have love in your heart first, and then it comes out. And I'm not the only one that knows this. There's real Christians out here, trust me. This approach focuses on genuine empathy, compassion, and love towards others. See, that's not that bad. But here's the thing. The devil will like hotwire the gospel for his own purposes and say, you know what? You can do good all on your own for people and you don't need God. You can do all this. You don't need God. You can figure this all out without him. It's like, and then what's the point of being a Christian or doing all these things for people if it's not, what's the point? Are you going to go to heaven? Are you going to heaven this way? If you're not doing what God's telling you to do, where are you going? Okay, so it says rather than unquestioning obedience and superficial options approach focus on genuine empathy, compassion, and love towards others, recognizing the actual effects our actions have on people. Yeah, okay, that's true. I mean, you can have, you should have all that stuff for people. Okay, that's fine. You should. Because that's like I said, that's a side effect of actually having grace in your heart. It says, I think both are important in the Christian faith, but a lot of people today get hung up on the vertical as priority and forget about the horizontal altogether. Said Melinda Hale, an advocate and executive director of the New Evangelicals, a non-profit focused on promoting inclusivity, justice, and compassion in Christianity. Okay, so like I said, they hijack it for something else. And it's like, okay, so we don't want God. We're going to do the love thing, but we're going to do it our way. And God, you don't have to have anything to do with this. We're not going to be in a state of grace. We don't care about that. We're going to have a pretend state of grace for other people that we want to have a state of grace for. And basically we just want to do good for people. And then it's going to make me feel good. And then actually, you know what? This is more superficial than what you just said. Because I'm doing those things out of humility towards God. And I'm not doing them for my own benefit. I'm doing those to benefit the Lord because I'm bringing him the glory in doing any of that stuff. No. Now you're doing it for your glory because you're not doing it for God because God's not in the picture anymore, remember? Okay, it says, similarly, Ajoy believes that the most Christ-like approach is to hold a position of horizontal authority because doing so also subscribes to vertical morality. Let's redefine all the terms to make it so confusing so that nobody knows what you're talking about so you can have an entire conversation without anybody knowing what's happening. And just make this whole language and whole code and now if you recode all the words, and that's what the left loves to do, they take all the words that they didn't invent, then they recode them into a cipher, and the cipher goes into redefining all the words that ever were made in about religion or anything like that, about faith, and they would take all those words and they're gonna change all the meanings. And so you'll go to a church and they'll be talking about faith, love, and and grace and charity. And next thing you know, if you didn't come with the pamphlet that has the cipher in it, and you can't decode what they're talking about because it'll be like on its face, looking and acting like Jesus and all that stuff. But in reality, they're not going that way. Okay, it says in Matthew 25, Jesus describes, here they're going to use the Bible to justify this stuff. This is disgusting. In Matthew 25, Jesus describes people who fed and clothed those in need, who welcomed the stranger, who took care of the sick and visited people in prison, she noted. Okay, so she didn't even actually quote the Bible there. So she just kind of paraphrased Matthew 25. Should we even go into Matthew 25? Your little demons in you just shook in fear. She noted. Then he says, what you did for the least of these, you did for me. He equates loving our neighbors. Let's paraphrase, shall we? Let's just recode all this. He equates loving our neighbors horizontally, morality, here we go, with loving Christ, vertical morality. Jesus is making all these things as an analogy because he has to use things like I'm the son, he's the father. These are all analogies, dude. How do you not get this? That's the mystery of all this. Is because it's an analogy. He has to use analogies because he's the same guy. He's the same guy. He has to use these analogies so you can figure out what it all means and how it all puts together because he has to pray to himself, which he's trying to show you how to do. How you do like you're supposed to do. How vertical morality shapes politics and justice today. Oh, justice. See, these are the things. They're going to take these words and they're going to just code them a little bit so you don't know what the hell they're talking about. Could have been President Charlie Kirk. Don't even bring his stupid name up, you pieces of junk. You expert trash. Okay. The distinction isn't just theological nitpicking. Experts. Here we go. Experts. The ones who gave you the how to COVID and distance. The experts say it sheds considerable light on commentary politics. Okay, evangelicals taught that all morality comes from God and therefore true goodness can only be spread by obeying God, even if it harms people around us. Okay, when has that ever happened? Wait, we're coding. We're using coding languages. So if you hate me, it's harming me. Language is violence, remember? So we're using this. So this is Bible code for people who want to have God in their life, who feel extremely convicted about their sin and want Jesus so bad that they will invent an entire religion. Oh my gosh, dude. They'll like, how do you not see that you're the cult? Okay. Oh my gosh, evangelists. Okay, well, blah blah blah. Let's see where we are. Okay, I don't remember where. So we're just gonna read. Evangelicals are taught that all morality comes from God, and therefore true goodness can only be spread by obeying God, even if it harms people around us. A. Joyce said, "This isn't necessarily a bad thing if pleasing God manifests by following the teachings of Jesus, loving our neighbors, loving our enemies, promoting peace, careful, and taking care of the poor, the widow, the immigrant, and standing up for the marginalized." Actually, Jesus talked about a lot of these, I don't know. Okay. I don't want to get into it. Okay. The widow, the immigrant. Okay, wait. The immigrant. And standing up for the marginalized. when the marginalized is somebody who is an innocent party, that's true. When there are a party who will cudgel and kill and wants to destroy Christianity, that's not a marginalized victim group. That's a group that wants to be not marginalized. They want to be the majority and they want to be in charge. And also wants to make up their own morality here. Want to have their own kind of God. Oh my gosh, dude. The coding is real, bro. In the current era, conservative Christian nationalists see anyone on their political team as good and on God's side. No, they don't. No, they don't. They don't, dude. They don't, bro. They don't. That is so not true. Because guess what? We stand on truth. And when it's not true, we don't like you. We don't want you in our party. We don't want you coming around messing everything up because we don't want you here. We don't want you pretending you're Jesus and godly people, just like the people in this article. We don't want you around because guess what it does? It makes Christianity look even worse than it does with all the people in here making it look bad. And I might be making it look bad. But at least I'm trying to find the truth in all this and trying to lean on the word as much as possible, dude. As much as possible. And you might have to brace for me because I might say some things that are crazy and I'm a real person. This is really a real person. I ain't no AI, bro. Okay? So no. If you are not part of the truth, if you don't have the truth, you aren't gonna be part of our team. That's BS. And a lot of people have said the same thing about, and it's just like, oh, and actually a lot of people have called out Charlie Kirk for Christians who were like, hey, look, we don't like all these gay people in our who in the party and all that stuff. What do you think about it? And he's just like, hey, look, we need to have our party first. So he put party first before he put Christianity. So that's my criticism of Charlie Kirk. Okay, I don't think he was a perfect guy. He wasn't the Messiah. Okay, because guess what? If you are in bed with the devil, this is what the crazy crap happens. These people decide that, oh, okay, you know, I can be a Christian and I can be gay and all this other stuff. Then they're just gonna make more people okay with that, and that's not okay. That's not okay. But here's the thing. You can think that all you want. Yes, there's gay people who are conservative and blah blah blah. And guess what? I'd tell them the same thing. And it's not like they don't know. And they can be conservative. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Christians. The Conservative Party is a Christian party because it's tradition, and it's about conserving traditions. And the traditions are, the ones that are conserved are Christian values. How does anyone not understand this? Conserving what? It's not conserving a bunch of land out there, which that's a coded word. They start saying, oh, aren't you conservative? Don't you want to conserve the land? That's not how this works. Anyways. Okay, moving on. My headphones turned off. Okay. Let's see. Evangelicals are taught that morality comes from God and therefore goodness can be blah blah blah. Loving our neighbors. It becomes dangerous it becomes dangerous when Christians. It becomes dangerous when Christians weaponize this vertical morality for power, which is exactly what we're seeing with Christian nationalism in the Trump administration.
Be advised, objective Echo is under attack.
Becomes dangerous, huh?
Attacking Charlie.
Dangerous for who? Dangerous for who? Why would being a Christian and love your country, who is it dangerous to? People who don't like Christianity and don't like our country? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Please explain why. Who is being a Christian dangerous to? Please explain. Because this is some crap, dude. This is some crap. Oh, if you're a Christian, you're dangerous. Didn't you just got done explaining how to be promoting peace, loving our enemies, loving our neighbors, and protecting the poor and stuff like that? All of a sudden, as soon as you want that for your nation, you want everybody to be on board with that. All of a sudden, it's dangerous. What are you talking about, dude? Please explain. Yeah, and having nationalism is the best thing you can do as a person, no matter what country you're in. Because if you didn't care about your country, you would just litter, and you would just like not pay your taxes. You would not be a civil person, and so you would be outside of society in every direction, other than what society deems necessary. Like it's as if you were gonna go to any of these countries and you're gonna just be civilly disobedient whatever their culture is because you're not a nationalist. That's so crap. Nobody believes that at all, and nobody would go to any other country and take any of those points of view to those countries and exhibit that at all. But they just feel like that's fine here in America because why? No, I don't think so. Please explain. And it doesn't make any sense. Stop. Sorry, your argument is crap. In the current era, conservative Christian nationalists. Here we go. These are probably coded words too. They're going to say conservative Christian nationalists, and it's coded probably too. They're probably going to sit there and go, conservative Christian nationalists? You mean Nazi? We are reading this on BuzzFeed, y'all. In the current era, conservative Christian nationalists see anyone on their political team as good on God's side, and those who oppose them as evil and satanic. If you oppose Christianity, is it evil? If you oppose your nation, is that good? Like I just explained, how going against society in any nation whatsoever, how is that good?
Objective Charlie is under hostile attack.
My computer just shut off. I haven't moved my mouse for so long. You should turn off that setting. Scary. Okay. Let's see here. I don't know. I'll have to go in there in the settings and stuff. Okay, anyway. What was I talking about? Yeah, you can't go to any other country or anything and explain that to somebody and be like, hey, do you think it's good that I'm just completely against society? No, nobody thinks that's good. If you're not conducting yourself appropriately on the bus in the city, doesn't even, like, you can't, like, honestly, the society has so many rules. It has so many rules. If you really think about it, it really is so many rules you have to get right without being a total menace to society. You know, it really is true. And that goes for pretty much most nations. And so, like I said, and those laws mainly are Christian laws because they're based on morality. And if you don't have morality based on godly morality, you have it based on subjective morality. And morality without God is trash because it's just logic and it's subjective. Does that make sense? If you're just going to have logic without morality, then you can come up with whatever you want. Oh, like, oh, there's something in front of me. I better get it out of my way. Okay, pull out a gun, shoot it. Oh, that was a baby. Is that moral? No, but it was logical. There's something in my way. See, that doesn't even make any sense. I'm trying to make this argument like make sense for people who are trying to make sense of this stuff. And honestly, yeah, it's just crazy to think anything to think that you shouldn't like your own country. I don't even care what country you're from. I don't even care. You could be from North Korea. If you don't act like North Korea is your home and you should take care of it, then what is your problem? You should want to make your country better.
Medic!
That's why we always say, stay in your country. Don't come here. No. These immigrants don't need to come here because they need to. If they were so good and if they want so much, if there's so much benefit they are to our country. If I could just get out the words. If there's such a benefit to our country, why don't they just stay in their own country and fix their country? Good grief. Okay. So, in the current era, conservative Christian nationalists see anyone on the political team as good and on God's side, but those who oppose them are evil and satanic. Okay, you can also say the same thing for people on the left. They have been calling us Nazis and fascists and evil dictators and everything. And let's be completely honest. Let's be completely honest with ourselves, can we, for a second? And you just told God Himself that He's evil. So don't come over here and with your self-righteous moral ignition tell me that I am also not good too. So you just called God evil for not being good enough God, and now you're gonna come over here and now you call everybody who follows God that they're evil too, because in a reversed statement like that, this is so twisted, dude. This is literally trying, we're unweaving the entire tapestry here, trying to figure out where, you know what I mean? We're following this thread of logic through the many lies that it takes to get here. Good grief. What's interesting is that Jesus taught a compassionate, here we go, let's talk about our favorite person again, because apparently, let's recharacterize the person who, let's recode this. What's interesting is that Jesus taught a compassionate, flexible, whatever that is, I don't even know, and I'm sure it's some recoded crazy thing. Okay, flexible. What's interesting is that Jesus taught a compassionate, flexible, grace-filled view. No. That's not how this works. You have to be in a state of grace. It doesn't mean you can be in grace and sin at the same time. You have to be in a state of repentance where you're sitting there going, no. Those who run the race to the end, you know, you have to run the race as if to win. You have to. It's not just a one time once saved, always saved grace. That's greasy grace. That's not grace. That's not being in a state of grace, because you can leave being in a state of grace. You can be in a state of grace and you can just leave at any point. Because guess why? Because I can choose to have hate for myself or for my brother or anybody else. I can choose to have anger for somebody in my heart instead. I can. But if it comes up, I say, hey, you know what, Lord? Nope. Forgive me. I gotta stop. Nope. And because we're supposed to bless those that curse us. So we're supposed to say, no, that person's coming against me, is trying to rile me all the way up. Bless those people, blah, blah, blah. Just like we want to bless these people who wrote this. I want to bless them. And also, the truth will set you free. If you want to sit here and have a conversation with me, call me, dude. Put me on your little podcast. You know, and I'll just talk to you the whole time. Make sure I have just about as much caffeine as I have today. And I'm nice and rested. So it says, what was interesting that Jesus taught a compassionate, flexible, grace-filled view of what it means to live a life loving God. Levings noted. Okay, disagree. And that's what I just said. But today's conservative Christianity is less influenced by Jesus and more by the Old Testament and Paul. So they're saying that, I mean, like, that's in your opinion, man. And I hate it when these people have all these, like, blanket opinions for the world. Because you don't know how all churches are. Shut up. Shut up. What the hell? You don't know how. Oh well, today's Christianity. You don't speak for all of Christian conservatives. You don't speak for all of them. You don't know all of them. You don't talk to all of them. You don't know enough of them, to be honest with you. You don't know a single one. Let's just be honest. That ever taught you how this stuff actually works. So shut the hell up. G pointed the theonomy, the belief that Old Testament laws should be applied to modern society as an influence on Christian nationalist politics. So I think that what's going on here, they're trying to connect the dots between Old Testament and Christian nationalists. That's the dots they're trying to connect. They don't want the real Christianity to really be out there. They don't want. They have to recode everything. They have to read everything because it's they can't have that. No. We have to have this different version of what God is, and this entire article is trying to do this. Okay, this is driving me absolutely up the wall. Okay, and it says it's more like Old Testament and Paul. Yeah, they're trying to connect the dots between the old school Old Testament, let's just say Jewish Levitical law, where there is like beheading and all this stuff. And that's what they think that we want. This is the crazy stuff. This is the crazy stuff that they keep saying. They keep saying that we're all these fascists. That's if we had our way and if we were really in charge. No. We actually are in charge. We are the majority and we don't do that. So stop this nonsense. And also they're making it seem like that we aren't in charge. Can we just admit that we just won the biggest election and we landslided every single category? Can we just say that that's exactly what happened? And so you have to admit that that's the majority. That means that right now we're in the majority. Right now we are the people that should be out there beheading people for, stoning the gays. But that's not what we're doing at all. We're not doing that at all. And it's like we're not even anywhere near that. And it's like anytime we even bring up that you shouldn't be gay, they go, they won't even listen to your conversation 1 second. And they write these crazy articles because it's just absolute nonsense. Okay. But it is considered Christianity is less influenced by Jesus, more like Old Testament Paul. Yeah, whatever. She pointed to theonomy, the belief that Old Testament laws should be applied to modern society as an influence on Christian nationalist politics. I'm sure. That's what they're afraid of. And let's just be honest. If that were true today, that would be the Muslims. If that was a modern day thing, that we're so scared that the Christians or the Jews are going to go out here and start stoning people to death. Guess what? If the Jews ever did take over America, that's if they were the Orthodox Levitical Jews, that's what they would do. Muslims, same thing. But guess what? We don't do that here. So what's the disconnect? And also, we never did that. There wasn't anything close to that at all. Our theology has been pretty much on point the whole time, and there's never been an instance of, oh, all those Christians go around wrangling up the gays and no, it never happens. So sorry. And if you false flag that nowadays, God bless you. It predates Jesus and is disinterested in evidence, science, progress, research, experience, or the inclusion of the other worldviews. Leving said, theonomy is part of the Reformed theology that has been growing in the evangelical movement for the past 30 years. Okay, lies, dirty lies. Have we told the truth yet so far? You know what I mean? So we're gonna be eating so many grains of salt. It's gonna be a very high sodium article. Okay. Summarizing the role of vertical morality in the Old Testament, Klinger Kane highlighted the story of Abraham, who was commended for his willingness to obey God's command to sacrifice his son, acts inherent immorality. If you obey God, to the point of sacrificing your son. Okay, look. Also, that story has the Jesus story in it. I don't know if you've ever unpacked that, but it's a really cool analogy for everything. And there's some really cool, but you're not interested in all that, so sorry. But yeah, so okay. So this is what happens. People get, they bump into stories like this and they say, God is obviously immoral. Why would he tell somebody to kill his own son? But he didn't. But he told him to be obedient. And that's what he did. He said, I want you to be obedient to the point of, and then also Jesus reiterates this in the New Testament. He says, if you don't love me more than you love your parents and your kids, then you don't deserve me. And that means it literally is, if you don't love him more than anything else, because we obviously love our kids more than anything. Well, some of us, not the liberals, they want to kill them all when they're babies, but normally, when you're a normal person, and that's not code. I'm not coding that. No, I mean normal. Let's see, okay. Summarizing the okay, blah, blah, blah. So it says, sacrifice despite the act's inherent immorality. Also, you're God. You know how this is all supposed to work, apparently. And you're smarter than God, and you know how this is all supposed to work out, even though he had a lesson involved in that, which is called a moral of the story. You don't have a moral input for that, apparently, and you're going to believe what you want. And so you are also God, and you can't understand that. So it says, what should happen if you have a horizontal moral system? This is complicated. This is why I don't like school, because this is what they do. They just make everything into different words and then make you, do these formulas over and over and over again. It's so stupid. What should happen if you have a horizontal moral system? If you have a horizontal moral system is this bad English? You should go, I'm not murdering someone, even if an authority figure has told me to do that, she said. But under vertical morality, that would be a sin because you're disobeying God. Well, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a sin if you disobey God, right? But you're conflating that with something else. You shouldn't do that because you just you're making a, I don't know, is it called a straw man argument where or is it red herring or something? Because well, I can't remember what kind of argument this is, but it's wrong when you're recharacterizing. That's what I'm saying. I'm not murdering someone, even if an authority figure has told me to do that. See what I'm saying? Okay, they're coding it because they don't want to have anybody authority over them. They want to be God. This is the original sin. This is why women struggle with this so much, I think. They want to be God because Satan told them, that I will make you God. You'll be just like God. And women, if they don't have God in their life, the first God that they pick is themselves. Okay. Drawing from the most violent and extreme chapters of biblical history, this approach frames unquestioning obedience as the highest virtue. I think that, okay, so the reason why I say women pick themselves as gods first is because it seems like it's true. It seems like a stereotype. Men, on the other hand, pick women. Is that not true? Women, they pick women, they pick vices. Men don't necessarily make themselves God because they know they're not that smart. At least men are smart enough to know that they aren't good enough to be God. They're not smart enough to be God. They're not good enough to be God. At least men are smart enough to go, at least I know I'm not God, because if I was God, things would be this way instead of that. But things aren't, and I can't control that, so I guess I'm just gonna make some woman my God, because she can at least give me kids and make me, happy in some sort of feeling way. They can, give me the things that I might desire. Let's just say. But if you ever made a woman your God, then she becomes God over you, and then that little fun time that you're trying to get, that goes away, because then they know that they can control you, then they become God. And see what I'm saying? It's okay. Draw the most. So let's see here. Drawing from the most violent and extreme chapters of biblical history, this approach frames unquestioning obedience as the highest virtue, even when it demands actions that defy compassion or common sense, and what might have once been a religious debate has now become a broader cultural conflict thanks to the role of conservative Christians in writing Project 2025 and otherwise shaping public policy. I can't speak on Project 2025, and neither can probably this person. They don't even know what's in Project 2025. I have no idea what's in it either, and I'm supposedly some conservative Christian that's pushing, all these blah blah blah. I have no idea what's in it. I've never read it. I have no clue. Let's see. Okay. Let's see.
We're engaging objective Echo.
So yeah, and then they're conflating this. So they're saying that drawing from the most violent, extreme chapters of biblical history, this approach is frames of questioning obedience and the highest virtues. Yeah, so they're basically saying like they're trying to make the jump, the leap for modern Christian people, and this otherwise disagreeable version of Christianity where they just have to obey God, and God tells them to, and if God tells them to kill somebody, that they have to believe God, and but we know that it's like God's not gonna be out here telling you to kill your kids. We all know this. Not a single Christian is gonna say, yeah, one time my God told me to kill my kid. Did not happen, dude. So yeah, no, that's because the reason why is because if you're in a state of grace, that's the new covenant. Okay, the new covenant is the new law, and it's not the Levitical law. And so we aren't this old school thing because we're under the new covenant. That's how that works. And modern Christians believe that. And modern Christians say that the Jews also, if they wanted to be part of Christianity, they have to be under the new covenant, which is saved by grace from the sacrifice of Jesus, and he's the Messiah. And that's how that works. Okay, so anybody can do this, and that's how this is seen. Okay, so we're not covered under those laws, and that's not how this works. Okay, and you wouldn't, and so the new covenant is having grace and charity, and so we're not supposed to be out here hurting others and hurting some random kid. He's not going to go out of his way to say, this is what I want you to do, blah, blah, blah. I want to kill your kid. That's not going to happen. Okay? Because we're on a new covenant. This is how that works. Okay? And so that's just wrong. That's flat wrong. And so that's not how this works. It says, drawing from the most violent and extreme chapters of biblical history, this approach frames unquestioning obedience as the highest virtue. That's not true. That's just not true. It's not the highest virtue. This recharacterization of modern Christians as old school Levitical Christians that all we want to do is, this is just ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Even when it bans actions that divide compassion or common sense. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most of these people that have read the Bible and get into the Old Testament that have a very superficial understanding of how Christianity actually works, and it's because these pastors have let them down quite a bit. And also maybe they got all their teaching from these crazy churches that are out there that are teaching all this nonsense. I mean, it's like, I don't even know. What if you went to all these nutsy churches and you learned all this stuff wrong because all these churches are out here wrong, and then you say, oh, you blame Christianity. It's like, oh, brother. Okay. The problem with MAGA Christians is that they promote policies that go against the teachings of Jesus. And Joy said they justify it by promoting a view of God that is vengeful. Okay, they demonize all immigrants as criminals. Okay, illegal immigrants are criminals. Immigrants are not criminals, and we know the difference. You should know the difference, okay? All queer people as predators. Okay, look. Are all queers as predators? Look, if you're not covered by grace and you're not having a repentant heart and you're outside of grace and you don't care if you hurt people and you don't care if you offend others, which is offensive. An offense is a sin if you're sinning towards others. And I'm talking biblically speaking. Biblically speaking, all right? If you're out here doing that, you are not, your heart is not a heart after God's heart. And what happens is you will do whatever it is your heart desires other than what God wants. And if that is being a predator, your chances of that go way up. And I'm saying this across the board because you could be a Christian and have that problem, okay? And I'm not saying that all of a sudden we're out here just going against the left because most of them are all queers and cross-dressers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we should be going against the people who are like that in Christian church too. But I guess we're just gonna make more churches that are soft on all this homosexuality. And I guess, maybe if you have more of that going on in the church and whatever your church is going on, make money. It's gonna go up. you money, because those people don't have God in their heart. They don't. Because if you're unrepentant, and that's where you're going with that stuff, that's sorry. No. Yeah, your chances of being a predator goes way up. And they've already linked together predator people who have been affected by predators, who have then been so traumatized that they ended up becoming predators or they becoming gay because they were so confused because of all the trauma from being a child. And I would tell that person to forgive the person who traumatized you. I'm telling you from experience, don't, because I was accosted sexually as a child. I would forgive. Okay, that was the biggest thing that was my problem. Okay, so I'm talking from experience. That doesn't make me gay now, and I don't have problems with being gay, but all I know is, and it's a big problem, because yeah, I'm not a predator, I'm not a gay, because I was accosted when I was a child, but who knows what I would be if I don't know, I would have been worse than that. I don't think sexually, because I'm not like a sexual deviant in that way or anything like that, you know what I mean? But I was, I had so much hate in my heart for people that I would have done worse. And if you have hate in your heart, it's as bad as a murderer. So basically, if you hate anybody, it's gonna drive you crazy. And it didn't necessarily drive me into accepting homosexuality. I did have to deal that as an adult, and I had to, but I did apologize for them, though. I wasn't really, I was a Christian, I was like the Christian that was like really easy on Christianity, it was really easy on homosexuals at first. Before I actually did forgive, I went to the person who accosted me when I was a child and said, hey, I forgive you. I actually went to that person and said, hey, look, I forgive you, and blah, blah, blah. It was the biggest thing that ever happened in my life. And so, basically, ever since I did that, my life totally changed. Because I finally figured out what it is to forgive people and how that it was destroying me mentally and just poisoning my heart. Okay? So, all I'm saying is, this has a soft spot in my heart, because I used to be like, oh, Jesus loves the gays too. Because if I was involved with somebody who accosted me as a child, I'm sitting there going, I don't want to go to hell. You know? But that's not how it works. It's not like I did that act and now I'm going to go to hell. How it works is I have to be in a state of repentance, and I have to forgive those who traumatized me when I was a child, and I can then say, okay, look, that's not the way this goes. That's not how the way this works. See what I'm saying? Okay. So they demonize all immigrants and criminals, all queer people as predators. Honestly, that's just science. A little bit. It's just like being able to put one words together. Like I said, if you have all that evil in your heart, unrepentant evil in your heart, who knows what's going to happen? And also, there is real statistics to back that up. All leftists as violent, and all, well, I don't know. Are leftists violent? All the ones we see, we get to see that see them as violent. Unfortunately, it's like all the leftists that are violent, we get to see them be violent. And if there's one that's not, they have hate in their heart the same way. And that's what I'm saying. I was a Christian, but I was like a lefty Christian. This used to be me. I had hate in my heart, and I used to, I might cuss a little bit here and there nowadays, but I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said hell or any of that stuff. But I used to just, hey, Indian. I would even hold back, dude. I would, blah, 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 blah. No, dude, thank you, your butt. You don't deserve this, da, da, da. Because I had so much hate in my heart, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, leftist is violent and all Democrats as satanic. Well, here's the thing. I don't think all Democrats are satanic, but if you're satanic, you're probably a Democrat. With no evidence to back these claims. And because they believe in a literal hell and yeah, it is literally there. And a God-ordained calling to make the nation Christian. Yeah. Because you should. You should want Christianity for the whole world. Should we not want people to forgive and have grace for everybody? And no. We want people to not have grace. We want to have some countries out there that don't want to have forgiveness. What are you talking about? No, we want to have a couple. Yeah, we have a couple countries that are just like that totally don't forgive and just like have a bunch of hate in their heart. It's the stupidest thing, man. Make the nation Christian. They justify cruelty in the name of tough love. Tough love is a version of this, but all love is tough.
Contact! Enemy helicopter!
All love is tough love. You can't love somebody. So if I forgive somebody, that's and God forgives me.
Engaging objective Charlie.
That's and if I don't, that's the way he treats me. Where he's sitting there going, if you don't love somebody, it's not gonna be good for you. And if I sit there and go, that's just tough love. You're just giving me tough love. Does that change the fact that I'm still in a situation that I shouldn't be in? That still doesn't change the situation.
I'm fucking hit!
Attacking objective Echo.
It doesn't change the situation. So it's like, okay, so let's just say we did it kindly. Let's just say we did it. Okay, time to wake up. Hello, wake up. Time to go to school.
The enemy
Okay.
now control more objectives.
But if you don't want to go to school, that's okay too. You can just not go to school. You can just stay home. You don't have to do anything that's going to make your life significantly better. You can just stay home and not have to go to school and not have to get a job. And when I die, I won't be able to pay for the house, and you won't be able to either because you don't have a job. Oh, it's just like, what are you talking about, dude? How can we tell? How do you say this in a nice way where the other person can understand? But it's like, there's no nice way to put it. What way are you gonna put it? Will somebody please explain to me how to put it in the nicest way that you will actually agree with this? Everyone keeps saying this. You're never saying this the right way. Well, can someone tell me the hell the right way? What the hell? How the hell do you say it, man? Can someone tell me? How the hell do you say it? Can someone seriously get on here? Someone tell me, how the hell do you
Need a medic!
say
We are targeting Charlie.
this the right way? Oh, you're just not saying. Don't give me tough love. Say it some other way. What do you want from me?
We now hold more objectives.
How do you
Secure all
want it?
defenses.
How? It's ridiculous. Okay. Under a vertical moral system, here we keep going. Don't worry, folks, we're almost done. Just kidding, we're gonna go for another 2 hours. Under a vertical moral system, the worst thing you can do is display God's laws. The perspective was blended to politics as well. Klinger Kane offered the example of the rather callous response to alligator Alcatraz in the extremely punitive treatment of immigrant detainees from MAGA Christians. Okay, alligator Alcatraz. Under a vertical moral system, the worst thing you can do is disobey God's laws, and the perspective has blended to politics as well. Kane offered the example of the rather callous response to alligator Alcatraz in the punitive treatment of MAGA Christians. On one side, we're looking at people who are undocumented, so yes, they've broken a rule, but for the most part, there are no victims. So why is our government being so hard? He said. There are no victims. Oh, it's a victimless crime. That's the same thing about gay. That's what they say. Oh, it's the same argument. Oh, it's a victimless crime.
We have secured more objectives. Let's strike back.
This is why the government is so harsh. He said, but the other side with this fundamental Christian worldview sees every broken rule as deserving a super harsh punishment.
Enemy heroes! Stay alert!
Actually, no, we're done dealing with the consequences. So the punishment is actually localized on the people who are committing the problems, not everybody else having to pay the tab. Sorry, that's not how that works. If you don't have to be a murderer or rapist to go to hell, you don't have to be a murderer or a rapist to go to hell. Actually, if you have hate in your heart, you're as bad as a murderer, and that's why you go to hell. So, and if you're a rapist, that's pretty much as bad as being a murderer, because you are stealing something from somebody and you're murdering their innocence. You're taking their innocence and just bludgeoning their innocence, and so yeah, I cannot believe I honestly can't believe that you would take that. You would say you don't have to be a murderer or a rapist to go to hell, and use that as your argument. The audacity. Every broken rule leads to hell. That's not, well, technically, if you're not covered under grace. Just even taking a Bible and apple curse all of humanity. Yeah, this is a very narrow point of view to take, and the whole article is people taking a very narrow point of view out of this, and like I said, weaving the lie, weaving this tapestry of wow. Vertical morality has caused white Christians, MAGA-aligned Christianity, to completely abandon the core of Christ's teachings because their focus is on self-interest and perceived moral impurity. Hale said, to them, they are Christians and haven't abandoned the faith at all, but their framework measures righteousness in a way that can excuse behaviors that the general public knows and sees aren't Christ-like at all. Okay, wait. Whoa, what? Vertical morality has caused so how, you see how we like went from Christian to conservative Christian to conservative Christian who is Levitical law to conservative Christian MAGA to MAGA-aligned Christianity to white conservative MAGA-aligned Christianity. Levitical white conservative MAGA line Christian,
Enemy deck! Who's got
Levitical
rockets?
Christian who wants to stone the gays. To completely abandon the core of Christ's teachings because their focus is of self-interest and perceived moral purity.
Objective Delta neutralized.
They have self-interest. So, vertical morality, meaning obeying
More
God.
objectives. Secure our defenses.
That's what they're calling vertical morality. Because that's how they have to phrase this, because this term doesn't work for everything. That's why, like, obeying God doesn't, like, they can't say the words that you should use in this sentence, because by saying obeying God makes people abandon the core of Christ's teaching, because that's not true. So that's why they're using this vertical morality as a substantive to what the truth would be. And so they use this imperfect
On the marked objective.
X factor, and they're using that to plug in to the formulas everywhere, and they're like, see, it all doesn't work. It's like, yeah, because you screwed up your math way at the beginning. All these formulas are wrong because you screwed it all up in the first place. Are we surprised? Okay. To them, they are Christians and haven't abandoned the faith at all, but their framework measures righteousness in a way that it can excuse behaviors that the general public knows and sees aren't Christ-like at all. Well, that's just not true. So, and it's like, yeah, because now you're talking for the general public. It's like, you're talking for the general public. You're talking for all of Christianity. You like using these big umbrella statements. It's like people who are trying to figure out a worldview. This is like, seems like very very infantile, trying to figure the world out. You know, very like immature, like very like you would see kind of this kind of behavior in like college students who haven't experienced the world, so they're trying to use these generalized, broad terms and broad, strokes to understand the world. But it's, yikes, dude. Okay. Yeah, you don't speak for all of the general public. Sorry. This system also demonizes empathy. Does it, though? I don't think so. Because it doesn't. Sorry. Some conservative authors have even written books describing empathy as sinful or toxic. Okay. Because you have to put a line between empathy and it's like okay, just giving you the cliff notes on that argument. It's because, and this is the thing, we're burying our argument here in 70 arguments. You understand why this video is taking so long? Because they can't just come out here and say something. They have to bury it in 17,000 different arguments that it's like I have to refute 1,000 things to get this argument to go to because you're gonna bury it in all this junk. Okay. So the argument for empathy is like an unregulated system. Okay, does that make sense? If you have an unregulated system, an unregulated capitalism, let's just say, if you don't regulate capitalism, it will be extremely evil. So that's and you won't find a single conservative and person who actually knows something about capitalism and actually knows that about capitalism to know that that's in its purest form, that it's actually not good. So that's why there's regulations. Okay, so that's just crap, dude. So that's why I'm saying these things, empathy in its purest form is not a pure thing. That's why there's regulations based on empathy. You can't just empathize with everybody. You can't just use empathy to solve all your problems. That's all I'm saying. You can't. You can't. I would give more explanations, but this video is getting so long. It's like I have to explain the entire world back to a child. If Abraham had empathized too much with his son and chosen not to kill him, then that empathy would have been a sin. Klinger Kane said, "We've seen this concept play out in Christianity with pastors telling parents not to allow their children to be gay, even if it hurts them. The idea is don't allow your empathy to support the sin in this way." Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're not supposed to empathize with the sin or to the point of your child's destruction. No, that's why it says you have to love me more than you love your kids, because if you loved your kids more than you love God, then you would let them do whatever they wanted. And then they would do something wrong, which is be gay, and then there you go. The end of your bloodline for one consequence, and that's what's going on. The consequences of the actions are what God is trying to help you avoid. And then in turn, that's why conservatives want to punish some criminals, because having justice and in a country and laws punishes the criminals who do it instead of punishing everybody else, because that's the moral and just thing to do. Why vertical morality, here we go, appeals to people and why it can be dangerous. Here we go. The use of the straightforward absolutism helps explain why vertical morality appeals to so many people. It's comforting to always know what the answer is and where to find it. Klinger Kane said, "It's probably nice for your nervous system to not worry about whether you're doing something right or not." Actually, it's really nice. Being in a state of grace, I'm not gonna lie, when you're in a state of grace, it feels good. But, because you're like, oh yeah, I can't do anything wrong. But it's not really true. Because you do know exactly when you do something wrong. So, and then you get conviction, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, okay, I gotta repent," and that keeps you back on track, and then that gives you back your joy, where you're going, "Okay, what I'm doing here is right." Okay. In times of cultural change, many people are drawn to simple authoritarian structures due to fear and uncertainty. Okay, so we're just doing this because we're just afraid. Oh, we're acting out of fear, and actually, no, that's not how it works. And I feel like the devil himself wrote this article, so anyway, because we're using every argument that the devil uses against us. Isn't this fun? So I get to review every single one, yay! So, okay. So, if you do anything out of fear, so we fear God, and so if I had that conviction, like I said, if I've had that conviction and not knowing what I was gonna do, until I, well, here's the thing. If I felt like I was convicted and I said, okay, I gotta repent, and I can go back to where I was in a state of grace, and I know what I'm doing and how I'm gonna get there, then I feel good, and I'm not in a state of fear. But fear is the opposite of that. It's going, I don't know where I'm gonna go, I don't know where I'm gonna be, and not understanding that God has my back. And so you could be in a state of grace and have fear and be wrong. Does that make sense? So you could be like, oh no, I'm afraid of, things not going this way or that way, because I want it to go this way and that way. But it's like, if you're afraid that much of how things should go, you're really thinking that you're in charge. And you're not giving God, you're not putting God in charge of your life. Because we know God is a good God. He's got us, he's in charge of our lives. When we're going, okay, I can relax because God's got me. But if it doesn't look like God's got you, even if he does, sometimes we get scared and then we go, oh no, what do we do? we shouldn't do that because he says, "Don't fear, I got you. It's gonna be fine." And then turns out, yes, it's true. God does have us, and it's gonna be fine. And once you're primed for authoritarianism in religion, it's easy to accept it in politics. Clear concept. I think it's true. I think that's true. I think if you think authoritarianism is the answer, then that's wrong. But because sometimes you can go too far. You can get it further than what the truth should be and what justice should be. So like you can go too far. I think authoritarian, but here's the thing: what they're doing is they are they're coding. They are painting this picture, recharacterizing Christianity. Again, listen, they're recharacterizing Christianity. They think that that's just an authoritarianism. It's not. It's not. Okay? But I agree. You shouldn't have authoritarianism. But that's when the person who's arguing with me would cut me off right there and say, "See, I told you, blah, 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 you're just an authoritarian," and start lying. That's usually how this goes. Usually when you concede a point to a liberal or a lefty, something like that, you say, "Oh yeah, no, we agree on that," and they go, "Well, see, because blah," and then they'll just have all this. But it's like, no, that's not the reason why I think that's true, and why, because you think that we're authoritarian, and that's not true. So, it's a gotcha. So, okay. She believes this is why conservative Christians have had a lot of success galvanizing their political base to get on board quickly with things that might seem morally questionable. On the other side of the aisle, she believes this is why conservative Christians have had a lot of success galvanizing their political base to get on board quickly with things that might seem morally questionable. What are you talking about? On the other side of the aisle, she sees more infighting as people try to use logic and empathy to find solutions and come to different conclusions. So you're saying that you guys who are like, I don't know. Okay, let's see where this goes. Vertical morality feels safe in chaotic times when figuring things out, quote unquote, or quote, learning from past mistakes, quote, feels daunting. Vertical morality feels safe in chaotic times when figuring things out or learning from past mistakes. Feels daunting. Living said, it's also easier to comply with when the bottom-dwelling citizens feel like they have had little power or agency to the authoritarian system. Sometimes compliance is a matter of survival, with it is necessary means of getting along and staying safe. Okay, I'm not really sure what the point of that is. So the vertical morality feels safe in chaotic times. Trusting in God feels safe in chaotic times. I agree with that. Okay. But figuring things out or learning from past mistakes feels daunting. Okay. Like we said, it's easier to comply with when the bottom-dwelling citizens feel like they have had little power or agency to resist the authoritarian system. I don't know where she's going with that. Sorry. Maybe she's saying that people who, if you relied on God, you feel powerless. You have power. You feel like you have power and control in your life, and you're just jumping into this conservative movement so you can have power and authority and have an authoritarian system. Weird. Sometimes compliance is a matter of survival. So it's like she's saying that they are weak people and bottom-dwelling citizens. That's a weird characterization. And also, I think kind of rude, if you ask me. Really empathetic there, calling people bottom-dwelling citizens. Weird. Sometimes compliance is a matter of survival, and agreeing with it is a necessary means of getting along and staying safe. Okay, so it's like a going along to get along. I think that's what she's saying. She's saying, you're just going along to get along. You don't really believe this. Maybe you don't, but you're just weak and you're powerless, so you're just going along to get along. Okay.
The enemy have secured more objectives.
So,
Let's strike
you're just stupid and weak. You're just stupid and weak and not smart. If you were smart, you'd do what I'm doing. Hale agreed that vertical morality feels easier and less complicated than actually confronting systemic issues and complexities of social justice. I don't know what that means. It's all coded. Sounds all coded. Hale agreed that vertical morality seems easier and less complicated than actually confronting systemic issues and complexities of social
We now
justice.
control more objectives. Defend all positions.
I feel like I'm a teacher grading a paper and going, this. If I was a teacher and I was grading these papers, and it would literally take me all day to read like 3 papers. If it was. If I was actually, like, how is this professors even doing it? Because I would assume that them actually reading all this stuff and going through and going, what? Like, no wonder our education system's absolutely crap. Because they're not reading this stuff. And they're probably just going, oh yeah, fine. And if it doesn't have anything that sounds like this garbage, they would be like, we're gonna have to talk to the dean and get you kicked out of here. You're a threat to democracy. Hale agreed that vertical morality feels easier and less comfortable, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know. Okay, it's easier to measure your faith by private devotion or rules that you think are in the Bible. Way to not capitalize Bible.
under hostile attack.
Rather than by how you show up in the world. It's easier to measure your faith by private devotion or rules that you think are in the Bible, rather than by how you show up in the world, he said. This is just how the devil works, man. He's just like, you're not even a good Christian. Look at you. You just don't even believe anything that's in the Bible. You think blah, blah, blah. The unfortunate part is that blind people can. Fortunate part is that it can blind people to injustice and sometimes cause them to justify harmful behavior when your focus is on individual righteousness rather than collective responsibility. You don't learn how to show up for others. You only care about your own journey. So, yeah, okay. So basically, the devil is trying to tell you that the only reason why you're doing any of this stuff is and following God is because you are doing it for your own benefit. And if you're doing it for your own benefit, then you're doing it to be selfish. And if you're selfish, you're a bad person. So, no, that's not how this works. You can't just say, if you're working on yourself, if you're working within your self-interest and the interest of others, that's a selfish thing. That's a bad characterization. What we're dealing with here is rampant bad characterization. This is literally why I made a video one time, or maybe a few times, about perspective. Because perspective is the same thing as characterization. You are characterizing a negative overlay on all this stuff. You're putting a negative spin on all this stuff. You're putting a negative point. You're putting a negative. It's like you're not thinking of these things in a genuinely positive way. You're not. See what I'm saying? You're not doing things in. And if you're saying that, oh, you're just doing it just because. It's like saying that you have a job and you have to provide for your family, but you're just doing it to. Yeah. Oh yeah. You're just doing it for your family. You're doing it because what the family gives you.
Need a medic!
It's like painting everything in a negative way. It's like you could do that towards anything, and that's why I talk about having a positive perspective about things, because it's really easy to have a very narrow negative point of view about things, and then next thing you know, you can. And in one of the videos I talked about, this is what I talked about. I said, I could come home and I can say, oh, my apartment's dirty. My car is, I got a flat tire. My girlfriend or my wife and the kids are the kids are running around like crazy. My wife, cooks some food, but it's not that good. And so, okay, look, I just complained about all those things, right? But there's a positive way to look at all that stuff. I have a car. I have an apartment. I have a wife. I've got kids. The kids are happy because they're running around. My wife is cooking. That means we have enough money for food. We have to you have to be positive about this stuff. That is taking the perspective. That is taking the positive approach to things. That's characterizing things in a positive way. If you do the other way, the negative way, of course you're gonna see all the negative things. Because also you're making them negative. Okay. Use your measure of faith, blah blah blah. The fortunate parties can blind people to as a result, Hale added, you risk fostering a society where people aren't held accountable for harmful actions, cruel and exclusionary, as long as they are good Christians, quote unquote, rather than social responsibility. It's all about personal salvation. So she's saying, okay, you just care about your own personal salvation. You don't care about anybody else. You're doing it because you have to do this for your own personal salvation to be right. You're only standing up for the things that are right in this country, and you're doing it selfishly. Well, that's a very narrow way to look at that. I don't agree with that at all. And like I said, that's a bad characterization. And most of these attacks, I would say, on Christians are just bad characterization. So, okay, next. Oh man, this is almost 2 hours long. Dude, I'm just getting started. There's a quote I heard often growing up in this world that says, some Christians are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good. There's a quote that I heard often growing up in this world that says, some Christians are so heavenly